Yo, man, wake up. Wake up.
I always have to like mentally like just get in the zone to do this, to start.
Why?
I don't know. It's always like, I don't know. It's almost like you just have to like put myself back in the place of like, like, I don't know how to relate to this. But like when you write music, the starting and the ending is always like the hardest part. And the stuff in the middle isn't as hard. That's why I feel like with this, it's like I gotta find a way to start it and then.
It's like a snowball effect.
Don't say that word.
No? Why?
Because it's going to happen tomorrow and I don't want it.
Oh, the snow. I'm looking forward to the snow.
I don't like the cold.
I mean, I don't care for the cold, but the snow is nice. It makes it worth it for me.
Do you go outside and throw snowballs?
Mm-hmm.
With who?
With Mesa.
With your wife?
Yeah.
She goes outside and throws snowballs with you?
Until she's sick and tired of getting hit with the snowballs. When I was younger, I used to like have all my friends in recess go and we'd start like snowball wars and fights, and we'd create like massive walls of snow to protect us.
Yeah, how old were you?
Young, but
right.
But it's the kid in you that stays.
You know what's funny is I went to a sporting goods store today, and I'm still trying to figure out like, gift ideas and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what if I got snow pants for like me, Alicia, and Kinsley to like go out in the snow? I was like, that'd be kind of a fun little gift idea.
Sure.
They didn't have any kid ones.
Snow pants?
Yeah.
They should.
They didn't.
I mean, what did I wear?
They make them. Somebody makes them.
Yeah.
But when I went to the sporting goods store, just down the street, they didn't have them.
Huh. Well, I mean, that's unfortunate.
So I just got saran wrap instead.
Make sure to get sleds too, because that's probably.
Yeah, but I don't have. I guess we have to go to. So when I grew up at our house, we had like a really big hill in our backyard, and that was where we like went sledding. We never went to like the Heinz Park or the Heinz. We never went there.
No,
our hill was huge,
but it's still like not as big as those other hills that you could go down.
No, but it's pretty close.
You missed out, man.
Yeah. Well,
did you ever go?
No.
What? Then you have the.
Come on, let's
go. You have to now, especially with this snow that's coming. If it's pretty decent, you should definitely take your family.
That'd be fun.
I mean, I'm sure your wife has.
I'll just take a cardboard box from the warehouse and slide down the hill with that.
I mean, you don't really need much.
No. Yeah. Just the snow pants.
Maybe something more robust for your kids so that they don't.
She would have a blast just bouncing around and
probably.
She loves it.
Yeah.
So you and I have talked about a bunch of kind of tech things that have happened in the world, right?
Yeah.
And the one that's the controversial one, the fun one that people are talking about right now is Twitter.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. It's kind of commanded the news for almost the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk is an interesting guy, right? We're not going to get political on the whole deal of whatever, but he does interesting things. And I have days where I wake up and I'm like, yeah, smart guy, really good engineer. And I have days I wake up like, he's psycho, like actually crazy.
Yeah.
But, you watch interviews of him and he seems fairly level-headed, but then decision-making is kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, I think the way he comes off, sometimes it's like a mixed bag.
Yeah.
He'll show you a different color of himself every single time.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched him on the Joe Rogan podcast?
Hell yeah.
So when people watched him on the Joe Rogan podcast the first time, they were confused. They were like, what's going on? What's wrong with Elon? The second time he came on, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he went and he smoked weed and he drank quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it's really a mixed bag depending on
how he feels, maybe.
Yeah,
whatever.
honestly. But I mean, can you imagine the amount of stress and tasks that he has in a day?
And that's the thing is like I'm never here to cast judgment on anyone because I'm not in their shoes.
Yeah.
That's a whole different ball game, and it is what it is. But
right.
I want to take you through the timeline of the whole Twitter deal up until probably close to now. To like zoom back out because I think we're all in the middle of like what's happening now.
Yeah.
I want to zoom back out to like walk through how we got where we're at today.
Mm-hmm.
So March 25th, he starts beginning criticizing Twitter, right? On Twitter.
Yes.
Saying that Twitter doesn't allow free speech. And he created the poll. Do you remember that first poll that he said? And the poll was, do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle of free speech?
Right.
70% of people said no.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Very interesting. So come April 4th, not too long after, a security filing, because they have to do this, reveals that Musk was the largest Twitter shareholder at 9%.
Mm-hmm.
So, at that point, he kind of is the biggest owner of Twitter.
Yeah.
Right. And then they invited him to be on the board of directors, which I thought was kind of interesting, right? He was there criticizing, and then they did that. And I think that was probably out of courtesy. They probably have to, don't have to, but it's probably that one of those unspoken rules. And maybe they have to. I don't know. And they invited him on the board, like, hey, come join the board, and let's work together. And 6 days later, on the 10th, he said no. Yeah.
I think maybe it wasn't maybe a courtesy. Maybe they were just trying to get him to kind of
control him in a sense.
Yeah.
And I thought about that too. So then on the 14th, April 14th, now he makes the offer to purchase Twitter for $43 billion, which is probably his plan all along, right?
Yeah.
So 4 days after he says no, he says, I just want to buy you out instead. And that was at $54.20 per share and taking the company private.
Didn't he back out of it?
Well, yeah, we're getting there.
Okay.
We're getting there. So he then posted on Twitter another poll. Taking Twitter private at $54.20 per share should be up to the shareholders, not the board. And 83% of people said yes.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Although what's interesting about the stock market is the shareholders appoint the board or vote on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're a shareholder, if you own one share of Twitter in the mail or via email, you'll get a notification when it's time to vote for the board. And they'll say, do you agree on this person, this, whatever.
Interesting.
And there'll be board recommendations. Like we recommend that you say yes, whatever. And you have the entitlement. 1 share versus 10,000 shares. 10,000 shares is going to have more of a say, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he went to Twitter instead.
Right.
April 25th. So now we're 11 days past that. A filing happened that reveals Twitter's board publicly and unanimously accepted Musk's offer.
Okay.
So they said, okay, yeah, that's a good valuation of our company. We want to go for it. May 13th. So again, another couple weeks. It just seems like every couple weeks something happened, right?
Yeah.
May 13th, he puts out the buyout deal on hold because he said that there's a report that 5% of Twitter's daily activity users are spam accounts.
I remember
this?
Yes, yes.
And this was his
His
clause, in his mind, his way out of getting out of this deal.
So do you think he wanted to truly get out of the deal because of that, or was it just like it was just another thing that he was just doing to cause issues and problems and controversy?
I don't know. What I would say is that he might have had a gross overestimation of Twitter's value. Okay,
so then he was like buyer's remorse, wanted to back out. And you don't think this was a part of his plan to begin with, like to do that, to back out? And
I mean, when you engage in some kind of thing like that, like, so he's been hit a bunch of times by the SEC for things that he said that's affected his stock.
Yeah.
He's calmed down a lot about that. But he plays, and he's taken that and moved it to cryptocurrency because it's not regulated, right? Dogecoin, you remember all that? Not just Dogecoin, but Shiba Inu and other coins like that. Yeah. Bitcoin, when he announced that he was going to take it and then announced that they'll no longer take it.
Right.
So he's moved that game playing over to an unregulated side. So I don't know if it was in the cards because that can come really negatively on him. Maybe it was. Don't know. So June 6th, so now almost a month later after he puts it on pause, Musk's attorney sends a letter and threatens to terminate the agreement. And Elon Musk alleged that Twitter was not complying with his request to get the data on spam or fake accounts because he wanted to know whatever.
Okay.
2 days later, Twitter's board complies with his demands. So there may be some truth to that, and agrees to provide him with a fire hose data stream of tweets that then he would have to comb through. What a way to do it, right? We'll give you everything.
Isn't that what lawyers do? They kind of drown you in paperwork.
Not just lawyers, but even if you look at bills that get passed into law,
yeah,
some of those things are like 5,000 pages.
Yeah, and they just sneak stuff in.
Yeah, they put stuff in. You're never going to read through the whole thing.
Yeah, they're just banking on the fact that you're not going to take the time to kind of really do the diligence.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Or there's just so much that it's not possible for you to do, right? And on that same day that they kind of gave him that stream, Elon Musk announces his intentions to terminate with Twitter.
Okay.
He wants to terminate the acquisition, claiming that a filing with the SEC that Twitter still refuses to comply with the request. So he's saying that Twitter's still not giving him what he wants. And it might be that they're doing too much in the sense to drown him, right?
He didn't take kindly to that, basically.
No. But the Twitter's chairman said that they're going to pursue legal actions against Elon Musk for probably signing a LOI or a letter of intent.
Yeah.
That he's going to do this, and probably even deeper documents to say that, there's probably very few stipulations that allow him to get out of the deal, and that probably wasn't one of them at first. July 12th, so now we're another month later, right? Twitter formally launches a lawsuit against Elon Musk in response to him backing out of the acquisition. And he posted, the irony, on Twitter. Elon did. Another month goes by almost, August 6th, and Elon challenges former Twitter CEO to a public debate about spam accounts and Paul followers on whether they believe that it's less than 5% of the activity or more than 5%. And obviously that didn't happen because there was no poll. October 4th, so now we're going 2 months later.
Okay.
Things are starting to kind of stretch out here.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk submits a proposal to move forward with the acquisition at the original agreed upon price of $44 billion, at $54.20 per share.
Okay.
Right? On the condition that Twitter drops the lawsuit, which means that Twitter had a case.
Yeah.
A really good case.
Right.
Right.
So they kind of strong-armed him into actually following through, and
yeah,
it would have been not worth it. You might as well just
Yeah.
Okay.
And so in that same month, October 20th, Musk told investors that he plans to terminate nearly 75% of Twitter staff. Okay. So this was in October. And do you remember it was like 6 days after that, the video of him bringing in the kitchen sink?
Yes.
So that was 6 days after he told the board he's going to cut 75% of staff. So he brought in the kitchen sink. Do you know, you get that? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything in the kitchen sink, right? And changed his bio to Chief Twit.
He's hilarious. Because he did that in Tesla. He changed his title, I think, from CEO to some type of crazy title. I forget. Like legally.
No, it was Techno Wizard or Techno King or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not legally. So, and he explains this. On the filings, there's no filing as a position of CEO.
Okay.
It's president, vice president, secretary, etc.
Yeah.
There's no CEO title.
Right.
That's a, quote, made up title.
Okay.
And so, he just said he's Techno King now. I think it's Techno King.
Okay.
And on that tweet where he shows the video of him bringing the sink, he says, entering Twitter HQ, let that sink in. Right? But this was before the buyout was actually complete.
Okay.
But they're, in the final stages.
Yeah.
And the day after he closed on the deal, the 27th.
Okay.
So now we're talking October 27th to December. Today is
22nd.
The 22nd at the time of this recording.
Yes.
And on the 27th of October, he said the bird is the bird is freed. Right. So 3 days later, he unveils his plan for Twitter's verification system.
Right.
Remember this, where you can buy the blue check.
Right. Yes.
And all that. And a couple days later, November 1st, he had an exchange with Stephen King that he confirmed that he was going to charge
$8,
a reduced price of $8 per month, because I think initially it was $20 or something like that. And this guy Stephen King, most know, kind of went out and said $20. Like I can't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And Elon replied, "We need to pay the bill somehow. Twitter can't rely entirely on advertisers. How about $8?"
Okay.
And that's where he got the 8 from. It was a negotiation almost.
Right.
Like,
literally live on Twitter.
So 3 days later, after that, so now October 27th, he buys it out. November 4th, so that would be whatever, how many days? 7 days later.
Yeah.
He lays off half the staff.
Right.
Cuts half of them.
Which was super controversial. And everyone was, so around that time is when I always had a Twitter account, but I never used it or had the app downloaded on my phone. So I downloaded it and I logged in, and I'm just bombarded by these rich memes and these incredible back and forths between Elon and everybody else. And he's just the most hilarious person on Twitter.
He doesn't care. And I don't blame him to a degree. But there's both sides of the fence. But what's so funny is, do you remember when Coinbase was laying everyone off?
I don't remember.
Remember when Facebook started laying everyone off?
I haven't.
Exactly.
Oh,
do you see my point?
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Massive layoffs have happened in the tech industry, but it never got press and it never got attention like this did. And it's partially the way that he went about it, right?
He was dramatic
about it. The way that he sent the email to people, all that stuff. And that's what brought him the attention, because when I saw people leaving Coinbase and Facebook, they were posting on LinkedIn, hey, it's been a great ride. I really appreciate this. Like they're very appreciative. There's no one really bashing, for the most part, the organizations that they just got laid off from.
Yeah.
Also, they probably didn't want to burn the bridge.
No, yeah.
But Twitter is a whole different story, right?
You have ex-employees tweeting out some of the most hateful things and trying to expose Elon, and then Elon fact-checking them right then and there, live. And then there was the most hilarious thing that I remember reading was Elon thanking one of his ex-employees for coming back into the building to let him in.
Oh, yeah.
Let him and his staff
Do you remember what happened?
Yeah, so I think he fired the guy that was in charge of every single, the card access.
Yeah,
all the access control. But then they locked everyone out.
I think somehow it broke.
I don't know if it broke, but I think they accidentally deleted like cards that weren't supposed to be deleted or something.
Yeah,
and he didn't know how to make it work.
Yeah.
So he called the guy back, hey, can you come back and fix this?
Yeah.
And he came back and fixed it. And then he thanks him on Twitter.
But, the deal is like people can be, heinous online. We call them like keyboard warriors and all that. Mm-hmm. But when you go face to face with people, it really changes.
It does.
Like if you were pissed off at Elon Musk and then you got a personal phone call from him, do you think you'd just start going off on him? I think most people would probably have a civil conversation.
Yeah, of course, because there's always that difference when there's actual direct confrontation. So for some reason, our inhibitions when we're not directly confronting someone get turned off.
It's because that there's a gap that's created.
Yeah.
And people always want to fill the gap with the worst.
Right.
Not understanding all the pieces, and they don't fill the gap with anything that's positive. And so when you talk to someone in maybe confrontation or whatever it is, the goal is to fill that gap with the truth, and that a lot of times levels people out.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was on the 4th. He lays off everyone. On the 9th, he launches a verification system.
Mm-hmm.
And on the 10th was his first address to the Twitter staff since taking ownership of the company. And during that, I believe he said something about Twitter not having the cash flow to survive, mentioning that bankruptcy is possible.
Mm.
His famous thing. I mean, he's banked up a lot of his companies,
right,
or gotten closed at least.
Right.
So then he pauses the day after that. He pauses the Twitter Blue subscriptions because people were abusing that, and we're going to talk about cybersecurity a little bit later. But what were they doing? They were spinning up fake accounts that looked real. They were paying the $8 and
get the verified check,
and then probably DMing people and such to do favors, tasks, whatever.
Yeah.
And people do it, which is insane. But that's a different story. So he puts a pause on that. The day after that, he fires 80% of the contract employees. Right. So most of the contractors, he said, see ya. 2 days after that, he announces that he's turning off microservices or bloatware, which he claims isn't necessary for the site to work. And I remember he got tons of controversy around that.
Yeah.
Firing all the people, the contractors, and then turning off a lot of these back-end services that don't matter.
Right.
And the biggest controversy there was Twitter's not going to survive. It's going to be down.
Yeah.
And then my favorite is all the memes that say, still up.
Yeah.
Still working.
Yes.
Just a reminder like that's still here.
Well, it's interesting because when everyone was having that sort of, I guess, I don't know if it was a trend on Twitter, because I saw that when everyone is saying like, Twitter's not going to be here in a little bit. Like that's, everyone was saying that. Everyone was saying, oh, since this is happening, let me just say whatever on Twitter.
Right.
And then like you said, a couple days later, everything's still here. And I mean, it seems like Elon just cut the fat. He boiled it down to all the essentials. He made it work. He made sure all the I guess the people that are doing what they're supposed to be doing and doing an excellent job stayed on. And all you have is, an amazing workforce that's focused, like he's done with all of his other companies, Tesla.
But you know what? It's not Elon that does that. It's every business owner. Anyone who acquires a company, they go through the same process.
Of course.
They interview everybody, or they go through some kind of review process to see who's staying and who's not.
Right.
That's just typical, especially when someone wants to sell a company. They may be checked out, right? They might not be with it all the time. And so their attention to detail about who's doing what is less, or the company's surpassed their ability to manage, and they haven't put right people in place to make sure that it stays at a sizable account. And what I've learned is if you ask somebody on any team if you need more people in your team, they're always going to say yes.
Right.
Why would you say no?
Yeah.
So that's probably what happened. And then, of course, with work from home, and again, not to knock it, but what does happen sometimes is you have people that will work only 2 hours a day when they're supposed to work 8 or whatever it may be, or they're not accomplishing all their tasks. So it looks like we need more people, but in reality, we just need people to work.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of analytics you can look at. There's all kinds of answers and truths and facts about how all that works. Every company operates differently. That's not, I'm generally generalizing, what's happening. But
so you can probably appreciate a lot of the things the decisions rather that Elon has done
sometimes
with Twitter.
No. Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I understand cutting the fat.
So what do you disagree with what he's done?
The way he does it.
In the public manner.
In the public manner, the way he goes about it. Like, you also have to understand, like, when I hire people here, I have some kind of tie to your family, right? Because if I were to just say, hey, Cassia, you got to find a way to make money, right? My ultimate responsibility is the company, number one. Yeah. That's my number one responsibility. But a very close second is the team members. And so if I can find better ways to go about that, like, at some point you got to cut the fat, right? When in a company like Twitter, you got to do it, but there's better ways to do it.
So you think the way he did it was disrespectful / embarrassing to those that did get let go?
Yeah, and there's some things that he did, like sending like voice messages.
I don't remember seeing that.
We'll show you that offline. I don't want to get into the political side of what he did too. It's just there's better ways to go about it. That's all. Now, and I get it. Like, he's also kind of making a point and he's playing a marketing game too.
Yeah.
He's playing a marketing game.
And I think it's worked to some degree. There's a lot of fire behind Twitter.
It absolutely had worked. It worked. And I get that. But at the end of the day, there's probably better ways to do it.
Right.
But again, I'm not him. He's made it much farther than I have. So I yield to his discretion because he's the owner of that company. Right?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so as far as what you disagree with, do you think that what he's done so far has made Twitter better, though?
I'm not a big Twitter user.
Okay.
I never was. So, like, when Twitter first came out, I got an account, and I, like, tweeted maybe 5 times in my life.
Okay. So you're not a heavy user?
No.
Okay.
I was more on the other platforms.
So,
and to me, like, Twitter was just kind of like a lightweight replicate of Facebook in a sense.
Okay.
Right?
The bare bones.
The bare bones.
Right.
And Facebook has really advanced their platform so much where there's a lot more content, videos, et cetera.
There is. And I think Twitter is aiming to kind of match that kind of...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, standard.
But the other big thing is, like, a lot of people that I follow online, friends, family, whatever, weren't on Twitter. But then, a good amount of them did. And this is back when I was in high school. So, like, friends in high school went on Twitter. But shortly after, they got off of it, too. So yeah. Really, like, social media is nothing without the people.
That's true. I mean, if your group of people that you hang out with don't necessarily use that as a platform to communicate, I can see why it wouldn't be something you'd want to use.
Yeah.
But recently when I jumped back on, I could see the benefit to it because it's not necessarily a method for me to communicate with my friends, but more a method for me to kind of view the world in a more raw sense because I think journalism takes a big foothold in Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's a big function of it. And because it's the reason why I think Elon saw it as an opportunity to bring that back, to bring the unfiltered back. Because have you heard about the Twitter files that happened on Twitter?
It sounds familiar, but it's not ringing a bell.
So there was like kind of like a live viewing of and discussion on Twitter that included Elon, and he was a part of it, of them kind of exposing what Twitter was doing before Elon came in.
Yes.
And they were talking and showing actual proof of, I think it was political figures requesting to higher ups in Twitter to, here's the next list of tweets to remove.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying? To censor.
Yeah.
And people in the highest position in politics, people in other high positions in other companies would basically have them take care of the problematic,
right,
I guess, tweets. I don't know like all the details, but just based on that, something sketchy was happening, something suspicious. And I think it's a really good thing that this is now out in the front. Yeah. People are seeing it.
It is.
And Elon has helped facilitate the exposure of it.
No different than every other media company who swings one way or another.
Yeah.
And Twitter has every right to do it because they're a private business. Now, do I agree with it? No, because you're just creating a bad culture in the United States of people that just want to be agreeable, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's their business. They can do whatever they want. One thing that he's done a lot is polls. It's like the polls. Mm-hmm. He's running it like a democracy.
He did the CEO poll. He's like, vote here if you want me to be CEO.
Yeah. And I think some people said no, right?
Yeah. It won the poll.
Yeah.
And then I think I don't remember, but I think he tweeted again saying, "Oh, I counted mail-in votes and it looks like I won."
Oh man, that's funny. I gotta laugh at that.
He's super like, it's so like, I have to sit down and like figuratively open up the popcorn and listen to, or read rather, what the next
I'm with you.
Cup of tea is.
Yeah. Okay, so but here's where I'm gonna kind of jump off the whole what do you call it? Off the whole timeline here. He's still owner of the company.
Yeah.
Which means he still can censor if he wants.
Yeah.
Do you know the latest thing that he suspended?
I think I do, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
So the biggest, I would call this, and it really hasn't been a big controversy, but to me, the biggest showing of colors was when he deactivated the guy who was tracking his private jet.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Because he offered him like, what, $5,000 to stop doing it or something like that. And the guy's like, no, I want $75,000.
Well, so, I mean, I can see what you mean. Like, you can pick, like, if you're the owner, you can pick and choose what you want to do. Right. But I think he recently had a run-in where someone was, I don't know if it was threatening his family or tracking him or following him, but
he probably has a daily, to be honest with you.
Right. So in this case where people are tracking his jet, I feel like it might be something where he's scared that someone will harm him.
I get that. And it's true. Like, when with that information out, it's easier for people to go find him, right? Because they know where he's going to land. But when you have that kind of money, you hire the right security, you handle those threats. Ultimately, there's nothing illegal that was happening because that's all public data.
Right.
It's all public data.
He just made it easier to use and see.
The trick that he did, I think, and this is just a guess, is that he probably watched the flight pattern and watched Elon's traveling pattern and matched it with the flight and figured out the jet, the type of jet and all that other stuff. And yeah, it's all public data.
So let me ask you this. If you were in his position and you had a family and all of that, and you were as famous and as fiery as he's been, would you do that?
Let me ask you a question. The President of the United States, do you know where he's going when he goes places?
I think it's public record.
It's all public record.
Right.
And not only is it public record, but it's always announced on the media. President so-and-so is traveling to this place and traveling to this place and is going to go speak here, is going to go speak there. Why doesn't he ever get harmed?
Because he has Secret Service up the teeth.
Bingo. Right? Elon Musk can afford... You don't need that kind of Secret Service for someone like Elon, but you do need security. And he has it.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
So that's my answer to your question. It's like I do get that, but when you start, the problem is when you start opening that rabbit hole, you got to go down it.
No, I know. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm just I guess looking at it from a different angle, I guess, because again, Elon obviously he's very famous, but he's not the president. Because when you step into being the president, there are certain things that you just have to accept. You're the leader of the free world, et cetera, et cetera.
And honestly, they're not just protecting the president because he's the president. They're protecting the president because what the president knows.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
But then Elon is also he's not necessarily someone that wants to be in the spotlight all the time. And so if people know his whereabouts at all times, it can kind of hurt him in ways or cause discomfort for him. I'm not saying that that's the reason that I would do it.
But devil's advocate, paparazzi has been doing it forever without the internet.
No, I know. But I can just see that it's just one of the things that he, I guess, would take advantage of. I get why he did it.
Mm-hmm. My point is, if you're going to follow the philosophy of free speech and all that, because there's no, again, he has danger regardless if someone posts where his plane is or not.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to account for the proper security to handle that danger.
Right.
And when you're a big figure like that, you get security members. A lot of them are ex law enforcement. They have connections with law enforcement, and they can work together to handle those things.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know what the community guidelines officially say on Twitter. So maybe he was within his right, and maybe it isn't a rabbit hole, as you say.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, there's again, he's the owner of the company. He has the ability to do whatever he wants to do. And, ultimately it's his right. But, again, just kind of to reiterate where I'm coming from on this, his whole reason behind buying Twitter was free speech.
Mm-hmm.
And, that what's next basically is the question.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm excited to see where Twitter goes. I'm excited to see kind of how it integrates with our lives. There's been a lot of technology that's been integrating with our lives, right, as time goes on. And it seems like everything has kind of been like separate pieces of technology that are all starting to kind of come together to work together. Like as an example, your phone, right?
Yeah.
It was just a cell phone, and now like it's a key to your car,
Right.
and it's your credit card, and it's all these other things that controls your home. And actually interesting that I say that. We were talking about smart home earlier today,
Yeah.
and you wanted to fill us in about some updates with Matter.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think Matter officially got released. So now all the different platforms are starting to kind of drop updates onto existing devices for them to enable Matter, which is super, super exciting. So now we'll be able to play with it a little bit. So you'll be able to, I think if you have, I think a 4th or 5th gen Echo, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those devices will support Matter through Wi-Fi. And then I think Google has already released Matter through, I think, Thread with their, I think the only device they're using right now that's supporting Thread is their new Wi-Fi pods. I forgot what they're called.
The Nest, I forget what they're called too.
I don't know why. I forgot.
That's okay, whatever.
I'm blanking. But it's super exciting because now we're going to just start the kind of snowball effect of all these.
You said it again.
I know. All these devices supporting Matter and not having to worry about having to pick a particular platform or a particular like Z-Wave or Zigbee device. Even though
communication style or whatever.
Right, exactly. So I'm gonna see probably we're gonna be seeing it in the near future, kind of new stuff that we weren't able to do before. So it's gonna reduce a lot of the friction that all of us have had with getting things to work.
Right.
Because now how things are gonna work inside your smart home system is you're gonna have Matter devices that some of them can elect to be, a controller. And if one controller goes down, one can elect itself to be its own controller.
I see.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. So there's no need for like one hub anymore per se.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're not going to have one single failure point with Matter, which is the exciting
That's
part.
cool.
You're going to have a super robust network, and then things are going to all talk to each other.
And theoretically, it should work if your internet goes down too, because it's all internal.
Yeah. So locally, I believe it's probably going to all work locally if you want to like turn on and lights on and off, and
as long as you can communicate to the controller locally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And probably what would happen if the internet went out is the edge devices that talk externally and take whatever communication is there would probably not talk to whatever maybe platform outside.
Sure.
So, but usually that wouldn't be too much of a problem because you want to still be able to do basic stuff, still
Right.
run normal commands and automations and not have to worry about it going up to the cloud.
Right.
And then the other benefit of that is not clogging up your Wi-Fi, with all these different devices that you might have on your network, because it's basically acting in its own little bubble that only will go out when it needs to. It's not going to be interacting on the same.
So it'll operate within your Wi-Fi network internally, but it's not going to clog your internet bandwidth.
So the Matter network is going to be separate from your Wi-Fi network.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I see. But it has to be. You have to get a Wi-Fi network that supports it, or a Wi-Fi device that supports it.
Yeah, I believe so. The edge device is going to act in that way where it's going to. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
So there's a lot of moving parts in explaining it, but it makes sense when you read it. It makes sense, and it's super promising for all the new stuff that's going to come out. Because
the hope is that it's faster than Z-Wave.
It will be. It will be faster than so it's comparable to Zigbee.
Okay.
But it's the benefit of it is low power, so it's not going to take as much power, so you can have battery devices that run off of it, and then you have a higher bandwidth capability,
right?
So that you have devices that can send more data, and not having to worry about using Wi-Fi for that sort of application. If that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense.
Especially if they use Thread. If they use Thread, that'll be the kind of high bandwidth, low energy use
right.
platform that will then allow that to happen. If they're using Wi-Fi for Matter, it'll probably still take a lot of energy.
So. Yeah.
But usually probably those like door sensors, all that stuff that uses Matter but then can talk through Thread would probably be the most ideal situation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Thread obviously is kind of the next up and coming thing that we'll see.
Yeah, it's so the nice thing is that you can either use Matter with Thread or Wi-Fi.
So at this point it's so new that there's probably not anything I'm going to run out and buy today.
No.
But at some point, I mean, what do you think? How long do you think it's going to take until we see these devices kind of
I think
in our homes?
Honestly, I think end of 2023 we'll probably see a very big amount of of improvement and, larger amount to choose from device wise, because I don't think it's going to be a very big change because a lot of the devices are going to be able to support Matter coming in, like smart things and Alexa and Google, all those platforms. All they need is basically just an update. There are only going to be a few devices that are going to require different hardware, which is the good thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting to see. I'm excited to see how all that comes together, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again.
Yeah.
So, what does suck though is getting scammed.
Why?
Well, because then
you don't like getting
scammed. No. So the reason I say that is just a really bad segue into my next idea here, and it's just talking a little bit about cybersecurity, and I just want to touch base on it for just a second because I really feel bad for people who fall for them, like even for people who fall for like these scams, because to us in this world it seems obvious, but I can totally see how some of these things are malicious and obviously malicious, but are tempting in a sense, right? And so like we all know what phishing is. I think a lot of people in the business world now know what phishing is. It's been one of those things that's been very well advertised, right? And these bad actors who have been doing this have kind of gotten smarter about the way they do it, right? And I've been watching, because it's what I do, and just watching all the reports come out, and then also watching firsthand with clients that kind of report things to us. And phishing came out, and it was kind of this blanket attempt. I'm just going to send everybody this generic Microsoft email, click this link, steal your password, and be done. But then, and I would say this is probably almost 5 years ago now, spear phishing became a really big thing, where someone say, okay, instead of just blanketing it, I'm going to throw a spear, right, at a company. So I'm going to go do research on Unitech. I'm going to find out who the CEO is. I'm going to find out who this, all the players. And I'm going to use their names and emails to send emails to their staff on behalf of them to make it look like it came from them.
Right.
To then scam them some way, somehow, whatever. And we saw a lot of that happening where, you would get, the famous one was, I need you to go buy gift cards.
Yeah.
Because they would send that. Or I need you to get Bitcoin or something like that. And that the Bitcoin one's harder, so people don't do it as much. But the gift card one is a big one. And people get scammed out of that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But then that became a little bit easier to identify just because, again, better marketing around phishing and spear phishing, people understood what that was. Lately, and when I say lately, I mean like this year, I've seen a massive uptick in we'll call CEO fraud, right? Where someone pretends to be the CEO of the company, but not via email. They're sending them text messages on their personal phones.
Interesting.
And I've seen this in other companies, and I got calls, what can we do about this? And it really is not much you can do. And a really easy way I can explain is, I get a job at a new company. I post on LinkedIn where I work.
Yeah.
It's not hard to find my phone number on the internet. And it's not hard to find out who the CEO is of that company. So I go get a burner phone or spin up a new number. I send you a text. Hey, you're new, right? So, right. This is Eddie, the CEO. I'm in a meeting. I really need your help real quick. Please let me know it's urgent. And obviously, if you try and call, they're not going to answer the phone.
Right.
And they're going to text you back. I'm in a meeting. I can't answer the phone right now, but I need your help. Right.
Right.
And the common thing is, I need you to go buy gift cards for some new employees, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And people do it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I see that this is an uptick. But then it happened to us.
Really?
We didn't get scammed, of course. No. So Marin, who's my assistant, started 2 months ago now. Very new. 2 days ago, got a text from me asking, that's very urgent. And luckily, because we do training for everyone new, she was like, that's not him. But also, she has my number. And it wasn't my number.
Right.
But imagine a company that has like 400 people, and you hire someone that's kind of like on the lower end who's excited. Eager, young too. I mean, I hate to say like it's an age thing, or older sometimes too. And you get a text from the CEO. Well, heck yeah, you're going to respond to the CEO. He's the CEO of your company.
Yeah.
Right. You hold sometimes a respect card for that. And that lately, that's been like the biggest scam that I've seen kind of going around. And now those are more like, those scams are not the big business scams, the $1 million scams, whatever. Those are, I'm going to hit a bunch of people and get, $100 from each, and it'll add up. And those are not scams that affect the business. It affects the employee. So as on a personal level, which is why I'm bringing it here, not talking to you about like, this big $1 million scam on business. On a personal level, like it affects all of you, all the listeners that listen to this, should you go through with these scams. So it's always good, I guess, just to verify. I don't know. I just felt like I needed to bring that up because I feel like it's just been happening more and more.
Do you think that they're using bots to kind of, farm this information?
AI is also used for bad.
Right.
You know, like it's not all good stuff. And yeah, absolutely, they probably do. I mean, to get the phone number on the internet, like even we use AI for like on the sales side,
right,
to gather phone numbers, you know, to make phone calls and such.
Yeah. So do you think the same people that are doing those types of, I guess, call scams, like, hey, I'm calling from Microsoft, give me, like, do you think it's those same kind of organizations that are doing that?
Yeah, there's a very good chance that it is.
Right, because they're effectively farming gift cards.
Yeah.
You know, and then that pool of gift cards gets funneled to this one company, you know, does this.
I'm certain it is. I mean, yeah, right. Well, then they probably then go sell them on eBay or whatever for a discounted price and make money on them. Yeah, I mean, like if you think about it, those scam call centers, they're a business, right? They cost money to operate.
Yeah.
They're in a building, they're using, you know, internet technology. They've got employees that they pay, and so they're a business. And I hate to say it like that, but they're a business, and so they have to find different ways to do this, certainly. But you know, it wouldn't surprise me if it's also happening like locally here, because the problem is, you know, go get a burner phone from Walmart. You go there, you pay for it, you walk out. Start sending text messages. And when you're done, throw the phone in the trash. Who's going to find you?
So we talked about it being potentially those types of companies that, you know, are responsible for those other types of scams. But what about internal employees taking advantage of new employees in that way? Do you think that's possible?
Oh, yeah. It is possible. And internal employees, we train on that too. But I will tell you, at least today, as I tell you this, statistically, internal employees affect the organization by doing something accidentally or doing something carelessly. They're not typically going in to infiltrate. It can happen, and it does happen, but that is probably the rarest of the occasions.
Right.
Like again, in our organization here, like it's not an internal employee.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you don't know that.
I don't. Hey, can I get half of that gift card that you
Well, so, I mean, now that this is, you know, it's happening, what would you say? I mean, other than training, what would you say is there another way we can prevent this? Is there another way we can kind of,
there's a couple things. I mean, it is training, because it's teaching your team, like, if you get a text from me that seems odd, or if it's requesting any kind of financial anything, how about you double check? Don't just go and do it.
Right.
Number one. Number two, though, it's going to be up to the carriers of the phone companies like Verizon, AT&T, at least here in the United States, like T-Mobile and all the other little ones, to help filter these things, right? Like, for instance, Microsoft came out with an Exchange server for email, and everyone spun up an Exchange server, and then all of a sudden spam became a thing, and now everyone's getting loaded with spam. So what do? They start putting email firewalls or spam filters in front of that.
Right.
We have this phone system that's wide open. Anyone can text anyone. Anyone can call anyone. You have noticed, though, like when you get calls, sometimes they'll say potential scam.
Yeah, they've added that in.
Yeah, and that's kind of the next like
layer
1.1,
right,
1.2 of their scam system. And so, yeah, eventually I think they'll be able to actually trace, like, although this phone number is a 734 area code, which is our area code, it's actually tracing out of, you know, India. Therefore, it's likely X, Y, and Z. Or what also is likely too, which we see this in the email world, is they'll start using AI to detect language, to detect frequency, to detect, you know, importance, urgency, and maybe if it doesn't block it, it at least gives the user a warning, like, hey, this language is commonly used. What's interesting that you say it's a bot is that actually I received a message myself from a company I used to work for. I still do work for, just a volunteer basis, a nonprofit, from the leader of that company. And I had his phone number, and I got a text from him.
Yeah.
It wasn't him, sent him the message. And not only me, but about 10 or 15 other people in that organization got it. And each one of those people were on LinkedIn listing that place as one of their employers.
Right.
So all that to say, like, at least some kind of warning to people, like, this is common, whatever. But back to you saying about the bots. It's very possible that bots are doing this because it's the same exact message. That's where I was getting at. The message that Marin got in our company, and the message that I got, and the message that my clients get, they send me screenshots, are worded exactly the same to begin with.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is I've actually interacted with some of these guys. Like, I got that text, and I was texting back and forth. And when that person realized that I caught on, they just stopped texting me.
Interesting.
Right.
So in that particular scenario, it didn't seem like it was a bot. It was just one particular person.
It could have been bot initiated.
Yeah.
Initiated, right?
True.
So like it could be bot initiated, and then after someone responds, it could throw it in a queue.
Mm-hmm.
And that person then has time to respond to that text message, right? So you're not killing all your employees. Which is, I hate to call it a business, but you're not killing all those people on their time trying to send 1,000 messages.
So it's literally like phishing. Like you
is.
throw your
phishing.
rod, and then, I mean, the bot is basically doing that initial part. But then when someone bites,
Yep,
you get flagged, and then you're like, okay, let me start this conversation.
Yep,
for real.
Well, so funny too is like like when you get a call from Microsoft saying this is Microsoft or whatever, that's called vishing, voice phishing. And when you get text messages, it's called smishing. Very weird. SMS phishing.
I feel like the SMS spam is so recent though, because we never used to. I mean,
politically, it is more recent.
Well, I mean, recently, I feel like I've gotten inundated so much so with spam and everything that I don't know if iPhone had to add to
report
junk
spam.
or report spam.
Yeah.
That was something that never was needed to be done anymore.
But neither was half the cybersecurity stuff we do now. Because, and it's not that it wasn't needed; it's that no one was taking advantage of the whole of the hole that was there.
Yeah,
and now they are.
Yeah, it sucks, but I mean, I guess it's inevitable for any good thing, any good channel of communication to have that kind of thing happen.
It is. And I predict that Microsoft Teams is next because, and Slack, like I can Slack and Teams anybody as long as their organization is wide open, which by default it is.
Right.
So like I can send a Slack message or a Teams message to anybody. Now, at least the beauty of that is that like it comes across with my email address. So it looks like that. But I mean, I can still send you spam.
Yeah.
Or request your time, and you're going to get that notification because you're living on Teams and Slack these days.
Yeah.
So, like Slack has Slack Connect. Teams, it's called, I think it's called Organization Federation or something like that, federating your organization out. And at some point, companies are just going to be recommended to shut that off because of how bad it is. Watch. Give it another probably few years, but I'll bet you that's what's going to happen.
I mean, if it manifests as bad as the SMS spam happened, because at one point we were getting massive amounts.
Yeah.
Like every single day you'd get at least 20 spam texts.
And I do think that carriers have fixed a lot of that stuff.
I think they have, because it's not happening as frequent, because I remember there were times where I'd be texted some random spam message, but I would be in a group chat with a bunch of other people.
That started on Facebook.
Really?
I used to get that on Facebook before I got it on SMS.
Wow.
And if you notice, if you go back to those text messages, notice the first 6 digits of the numbers are all the same.
Yeah.
Right? So like if your number is 734-123-1234, you're going to be in a group of 734-123-1235, 1236, 1237. They're blasting it to everybody.
Interesting.
And probably 20 is my guess is probably the limit on that. And they're just hitting all that they can.
It's almost like a virus too, because especially if they send links, like especially to people that are not, I guess, good at discerning between what's real and what's not. For example, when people get WhatsApp messages about this miracle cure or whatever it is to your parents or something, and then they send it to you, and if you are not of someone who's discerning, you will send it to your friends, and it'll just keep going and going, then eventually someone's gonna click on it and then receive whatever bad thing is behind it,
or just give them money.
Exactly.
Not get anything in return.
So it's literally like a virus, self-propelled.
It is. So it's very interesting, like all the things that are happening. And there's like, I could talk about this for 5 hours because there's other things that are happening too that are crazy. It's all relative. It's just a matter of like, get trained, use common sense. And that's that. But it's not as easy as it sounds, I guess.
What do you think the percent, like, I guess with
a lot. No,
a lot. I mean, it probably is a lot, but like with small to medium-sized businesses, like what's the percentage of them actually training their employees on?
Oh, it's so low. I think the stat, as a matter of fact, I have, because I do this training course and all that. I think it's something along the lines of like 87% of small businesses don't feel like they're prepared for a cyber attack.
Interesting.
Or anything along that line. I don't think I have that readily available, but here it is. Yeah, I know that the stat is it's very alarming.
Yeah.
And that stat was, only 14% of companies believe that they're prepared for cybercrime.
That's crazy.
And that stat I gave you was probably 5 years old now.
Right.
And there's probably an updated stat. And the stat also says 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses because they're easy targets.
Right.
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 So, for every one big breach you hear about, there's probably 100,000 breaches of $5,000, $2,000, $10,000, $15,000 here and there. And that probably adds up to a larger pool than the big breaches.
Probably does.
There's a market for it. Again, I hate saying it's a business, but that's how these guys run it.
Yeah.
So I always say this too in cybersecurity when it comes to business cybersecurity. And I don't want to be a consultant on the podcast, but cybersecurity isn't about being 100% secure because it's impossible. It's about being the fastest runner among your friends when you're getting chased by a bear.
Interesting. So just being like light on your feet almost.
Yeah, to your point, yeah, it is. It's just one of those things where if you're the harder target and your neighbor business is a weaker target, it's going to be easier to go that route, and that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Makes sense.
So it's interesting. The world of cybersecurity is always evolving and changing, and you talk about smart home. I think that's going to be a whole different landscape of cyber breaches. It's tough. And, you and I were speaking offline about passwords and all that, because a lot of times, like with the smart home stuff, right? And with everything in business, what happens is your password gets out there. People know your email address. They pair the two together. You use that password for everything, and they get into your smart home, and now they can control your whole house.
Yeah.
Now, smart home stuff, they're starting to require two-factor authentication, which helps and all that. But, you said what advice would you give to someone who, kind of wants to manage that?
Yeah.
Or how to reduce the risk. And it's not the best answer in the world because there isn't a best answer, but it's a password manager, like some kind of application that generates a random character password that's long, and you use one for each application. And then to get in there, you just open the password manager and paste it into your application. Right. And that way, if it does get breached or you do get phished for some reason, now that one password gets out, it doesn't affect anything else because nothing else is on that password. Hopefully you have two-factor authentication on, so it blocks that attempt. And if the device that you're logging into is smart, that warns you that someone attempted, you can go and change that password again. That's the best case scenario for a password. But what's happening in the industry, which you'll see, I think, in the next 5-ish years, is passwordless everything. Mm-hmm. So you're going to start using biometrics like your fingerprint or your face or your iris or whatever it may be to access all your stuff. It's not going to be a password anymore. And then the two-factor to that is going to be some kind of code that gets sent. So it may look like something like this, like you type in your email address and you get a code to your phone, you type in that code, and if it's a trusted device or if it's a device on the network or, you do this often, you're good to go. But what that kind of does is, it eliminates the ability for the person to know that email is a legit email in the system. So if I type in, Kasim@yahoo.com and I click enter, it's going to say, hey, if you have an account here, you'll get a code to your phone.
Right.
It doesn't verify it, and it'll do that for everybody.
It's ambiguous.
So you never know if that's a legit username rather. If it's legit, you'll get a text message. Now then, let's say if the device says, okay, you got the right code, but this is not the normal place that you go, show me your face. There's other ways. Or maybe it sends another notification to another device, or whatever it may be. There's going to be a multi-step factor for this, but nowhere did I mention a password. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a big thing that's going away.
Do you think it would ever be and this is going to be weird. This is going to sound weird to me. Do you think, because wearable tech is really popular nowadays, but now people are talking about not just wearable tech, but integrated into your body, embedded into your body. Do you think there will ever be it probably will, honestly, but kind of like a two-factor authentication using that, because you're using that. Like, let's say you log into a device, you put in your username, or maybe you don't even have to put your username. Just you being near field, present, allows you to kind of bio-authenticate.
The problem with that is, and I do this with people all the time when I have their iPhones, when I want to go on their phone, I literally flip their iPhone, show their face, and then I just go.
Right.
What stops someone from doing that? That's the thing. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but anytime you introduce anything foreign into the human body, it always rejects it, or typically rejects it. So people have tried that where they put like a proximity card in their hand, a little chip, and that's how they access doors. People have accessed their cars that way, and you could access a computer that way if you have that kind of technology built in. But the problem then is it becomes obsolete.
Yeah.
So what do? You have to go and remove it and put another one in or whatever. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like any of that stuff. Like there's 100,000 ways to do it better than sticking anything inside of your body. Is it a possibility? Absolutely, it's a possibility. Will it happen? There's a chance for sure. I won't say that it's a no.
I think it would happen for sure, to be honest.
I know. I personally, I'm just not an advocate of it. I think there's other ways to do it without messing.
I'm not saying I'm an advocate for it.
All of a sudden you're gonna come in, you're gonna be like half. Remember, like back in the day, the movies like Cyborgs, like half robot, half human.
Yeah. I think it's
See,
like
if that happened, would I have to pay you half? Because like robots don't get paid. You can pay them one time.
I need just half as much food every day.
It's half
as
food
much
and
water.
half oil.
Let's hope oil's cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's gonna be illegal then.
Yeah. Right.
That's funny.
It's gonna be the worst thing you're gonna have to think about is how much air you're consuming every day.
Yeah. Right.
There's gonna be an air tax.
No, thank you. No. I mean, it's very interesting. I think all the stuff going on right now is really cool, and we're in. As much as people think technology is as advanced as it is, or as much as people think that technology is advanced, we're still in the very beginning stages of what technology is to be. And AI has really opened up my eyes to see like we're at the very beginning of this insane revolution of technology that I still don't know if I love or not.
It's, I think, eventually not going to be a question of love or hate. It's going to be everyone's going to use it regardless of how they feel about it, because that's the only way you can survive.
Yeah, I mean, more or less. I mean, like, again, everyone's got a phone, or now everyone's got a smartphone, everyone's got a computer. Like, yeah, that's the case. And then it's going to be our job to make sure that it's safe and secure for people.
Yeah.
So, well, it's a good podcast.
On
good
that note,
chat.
on that bombshell.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time, guys.
All right, man. All right, Cass, I'll see you too.
See ya.
Get out of my office.
All right, guys. I won't be coming in tomorrow because there's snow apocalypse coming.
Okay. Goodbye. Bye.